is serotonin, which is our antidepressant and our happy drug. It's the reason we feel pleasure. And it elevates our mood and our social behaviors and affects a variety of our bodily functions. And it commonly comes paired with dopamine. And so the crux of the biological and chemical reaction that happens in extreme sports comes with the danger that's inherent in extreme sports. Norepinephrine, as I said, is the activator of adrenaline. And so under dangerous circumstances, we feel the need to either run away or stand and prepare ourselves to fight, which is the adrenaline rush we feel. And then the combination of adrenaline with dopamine and serotonin, we feel it's, dopamine and serotonin are paired, and it creates the sense of pleasure and exhilaration that we feel when we partake in these sports. And at the same time, it gives us our feeling of reward and the accomplishing factor of participating. And this combination of adrenaline and reward is an addicting effect. Dopamine manages addiction, and so it's present in drugs and other addicting substances. But extreme sports aren't a substance, and they're addicting because of this chemical reaction, and that's why we keep going for more. And finally, I want to talk about ADHD and how there's a positive correlation between the levels of ADHD and the participants of adolescents in extreme sports. ADHD has been on the rise in the recent years, increasingly in adolescents, and so has the participation of extreme sports. And this all has to do with the aversion to boredom and the increasing interest that is getting the exhilaration of these activities. So what it is really is these teenagers are being distracted, but extreme sports are an outlet for their meeting of the threshold, which relates back to optimal level of arousal. Typically, adolescents with ADHD have a higher threshold of arousal, which increases the participation of extreme sports. And just to explain this picture, it's a new fad, or recent fad, in Russia and in Russian teenagers to get a really cool picture of yourself climbing a really tall building. And this happens all over the world, but especially in Russia, and it's this craziness that gets us these pretty cool pictures. This brings me to my final part of my presentation, and that is the perception of extreme sport. On the left, you have a Monster-sponsored motocross driver and a Red Bull-sponsored one. The question here is, what do energy drinks have to do with extreme sports? There's commercial opportunity. We affiliate energy drinks with extreme sports because energy drink companies have been marketing themselves to them, and for that reason is explained by their inherent allure, the pure awesomeness that is an extreme sport, and just the inherent. The extreme sports are cool. and so, in an attempt to be cool, these energy drink companies market themselves. So the two companies we see are the energy drink companies, and also we have the sports-specific companies. These are the companies that market to extreme sports enthusiasts in the community at large, and that's a $12 billion industry, which is something. And so, for example, GoPro, Fox, and Volcom are three companies that market to extreme sport consumers, where versus energy drinks market themselves to anyone really, but they use extreme sports as a means of marketing. And also, I want to talk about the economics of extreme sport. We've seen big events. So extreme sports have big events all around the world, and we know this mostly in the Olympics. The Olympics, as we know, the venue changes every 4 years, and that stimulates that local economy on a 4-year cycle with the preparation of new stadiums and the required facilities. And so these extreme sport events are sponsored and organized by huge marketing companies. And so we see, like Red Bull, Big Wave Africa. Red Bull has nothing to do with surfing, but it sponsors the event, meaning Red Bull is surfing. Which is untrue, but Red Bull is cool because of it, and that's how it markets itself to consumers. And then the effect of these events on economies. So I talked about the Olympics on the local economies, but in the case of the Red Bull Big Wave surfing competition, this African town next to or South Africa was impacted by this event, and it brought a whole new level of tourism, which brings about the global effect on tourism that extreme sports has. And what I mean by that is we have the extreme sport capital of the world, New Zealand. Yeah, represent. The extreme sport capital of the world, where so many various extreme sports are available. We have bungee jumping that was invented there. We have this thing called zorbing, which is giant hamster ball rolling around in the hills. And New Zealand built its economy around the fact that extreme sport attracts tourists. And I want to just